Ever wonder what a coal boom town looks like 100 years later? Taking a 15-minute slow roll through the streets of Bonanza? The full drive is up now. Let's go. I decided to spend some time today just rolling through Bonanza. It's one of those spots that's easy to miss if you aren't looking for it, but it has a hell of a history. It was a company town through and through, built on coal. I wanted to just drive the streets and give you a feel for how it sits today. It's quiet, it's tucked away, and it's a good place to start the day. Let's just see what's left of the boom. You can still see the bones of how this place was laid out. When the Central Coal and Coke Company ran things, this was a high energy hub of activity. It's a bit different now, obviously. I like these long drives because you start to notice the small things, the way the tree line pushes back, the old foundations. It's just Arkansas history in real time. How about the numbers? That's pretty much the circuit here in Bonanza. I'm going to pull out of here and head toward Sugarloaf Lake next. There's a route that takes us all the way around the south side to the north, so that's the plan. Thanks for riding along. We'll catch you on the next road. We're crossing the threshold now, the back entrance to Sugarloaf Lake. Most people stay on the pavement of the main roads, but coming in this way, you start to feel the weight of the land immediately. I'm F4, and we're moving through a landscape that was once an industrial heartbeat of this region. This isn't just a scenic drive, it's a mission to document what's been left behind. As an everyday guy, I'm not here to give you a lecture from a textbook. I'm here because I'm curious. I'm here to see the logos in the dust and the foundations in the weeds that everyone else drives right past. If you look at the town demographics from the early 1900s, this area was a Titan, Midland, and the surrounding Sugarloaf Basin weren't just rural woods, they were high energy centers of coal and commerce. When you're driving these back roads, you're literally tracing the veins of the old mines. The companies that ran these hills didn't just build mines, they built a world. Every bend in this road likely served a purpose a century ago, moving men in black golds toward the rail lines. It's hidden in plain sight history at its finest, sitting right under the tires. We've reached our point here at the back, so we're turning it around, heading back out, gives us a completely different perspective on this stretch. Even when you're looking at the same trees and the same road, the view changes when you're headed toward the main entrance. Being out here as F4 is about more than just the scenery. It's about knowing the story of the ground you're moving over. This area near Midland was once a high energy center for the industry. You might not see the mines from the driver's seat anymore, but you can feel the isolation of these back roads. It makes you realize how far out these operations really were back in the day.
There's a story swelling, spun by souvenirs, hardened in the telling, tempered by the years, stuffed away in cases, but never out of mind, safe in all the places sentiment can hide. I wind the clock back again. There's always been some kind of comfort in there. I can't get over that call. The day that you told me that you're moving on. There's always been some kind of comfort in that. I can't get over that call. The day they told me they are moving on. I wind the clock back again. There's always been some kind of comfort in that. I can't get over that call. The day they told me they are moving on.
We're making the transition now, leaving the back roads behind and heading toward the main front entrance of Sugarloaf Lake. The woods start to open up, and you can sense the shift from the hidden areas to the public side of the water. I'm keeping the focus through the windshield. As the French fried phantom, I'm just a witness to the location. No personal detours, just the view, the ghosts of yesterday, and the drive. The old business logos and the people who worked these hills are part of the past now, but the location remains. We're documenting it exactly as it sits today, moving through a best kept secret that most people just drive right past without a second thought. We're pulling up to the front entrance now, completing the loop. We've covered the full circle of the Sugarloaf area in this 15-minute run. This is what it means to be finding the narrative in the drive and the history in the horizon. I'm F4. If you're traveling these roads in the Arkansas-Oklahoma area, keep your eyes open. The past is always there if you're looking for it until the next drive. We're leaving the lake area now and heading straight for Midland. You can feel the transition as the road levels out. This stretch of pavement we're on right now was the lifeline for this entire area a century ago. I'm the French fried phantom, and I'm always thinking about the scale of what happened here. You're looking at quiet trees and open sky through the windshield, but back then, this was a landscape of iron and steam. We're moving toward a town that was built on what was beneath the ground, and as we get closer, you can almost sense the shift in the energy of the We're crossing the town limits now. When you look at the layout, the way these lots are spaced and how the roads intersect, you're looking at the footprint of an industrial boom. Midland wasn't just a quiet corner, it was a destination. Massive coal operations and thousands of people were the lifeblood here. It's a different world today, but the foundation of that history is still here in the streets. Let's see what Midland has to tell us. As we move through these streets, you see things that aren't on the modern maps. Over here to the side, that's the old ball field, or what's left of it. You can still see the shape of the diamond if you know what you're looking at, but it's mostly in ruins now. Nature is doing a pretty good job of taking back the outfield. It's quiet today, just the sound of the wind through the weeds, but you have to imagine this place on a Saturday night back in the town's prime. A town like Midland didn't just run on coal, it ran on places like this. When the mines were booming, this field would have been the center of everything. Families in the stands, the logos of local businesses on the fences, most of which are long gone now. Seeing it in ruins like this really puts the history into perspective. It's a reminder that a town is more than just its industry. It's the people who spent their Sundays right here. We're moving on, but that footprint of the old community stays with you. We're pulling away from the old field and getting back into the rhythm of the streets. As we move deeper into Midland, pay attention to the scale of the blocks. In a lot of these old mining towns, the layout was designed for efficiency, getting people from their homes to the rail lines and the mine mouths as quickly as possible. I'm the French fried phantom. And what fascinates me about this drive is the silence. You're looking at empty space now, where company housing or a boarding house might have stood. The industry didn't just leave a hole in the ground, it left a specific shape in the way these roads were carved out. We're crossing what would have been the main corridor for the coal coming out of the hills. If you could peel back the pavement and look at the old maps, you'd see a web of tracks and spurs intersecting right here. Even though the businesses have changed and the signs are gone, the business footprint is still here. You see it in the foundations and the way the trees line up along old property markers. It's a 15-minute journey through a town that was built to fuel the country, and even from the driver's seat, you can see that the skeleton of that powerhouse is still very much intact. We're heading toward the edge of the town limits again. It's a short trip in a vehicle, but it represents decades of grit. Every lot we pass is a piece of that demographic puzzle that I'm always talking about. People came from all over to work these seams, and they left behind a town that still feels like it's waiting for the next shift to start. We're keeping the search moving, Found on Location isn't just about the big landmarks, it's about the streets that connected them. We're coming up on the main intersection now, traveling the cross streets of Midland. This is where you really get a feel for the town's grid. These side roads were the connectors for the neighborhoods, funneling everyone toward the center of the action. Keep your eyes to the left as we cross the main road. I'm the French fried Phantom, and this is one of my favorite views in town because of the perspective it gives you on the original business footprint. Right there on the left, look at the size of that building. That's the old feed store. It's a survivor. Seeing it from this angle as we cross over, you can really appreciate the scale of the masonry. In the boom years, this intersection would have been the pulse of the community. That feed store wasn't just a shop, it was a landmark for everyone from the miners to the local farmers. Most of the other structures are gone, but that one still stands as a physical anchor. It's a solid piece of history that's managed to hold its ground while the world around it changed. As we clear the intersection and keep moving, you can see how the demographics shifted once the heavy industry moved out. The gaps between the buildings tell as much of a story as the buildings themselves. We're documenting the location as it sits today, quiet, resilient, and full of these hidden in plain sight remnants. The logos may be faded and the crowds may be gone, but as we drive these streets, the spirit of what Midland used to be is still very much present. We're leaving the center of Midland now, heading back toward the outskirts as the houses start to thin out and the trees take back over the roadside. You get a final look at the scale of this place. We've seen the ruins of the community at the ball field and the strength of the old feed store still standing tall. I'm the French fried phantom, and this is exactly what Found on Location is about. It's about taking 15 minutes to see the history that's still breathing in these streets. You don't need a museum when the town itself is the exhibit. The demographics have changed, and the roaring engines of the coal era have gone silent, but the footprint remains. Every lot we passed and every intersection we crossed is a chapter in the Sebastian County story. As we hit the open road again, the town of Midland fades into the rear view, but the history stays right where it belongs, on the ground. I'm keeping the Fedora on and the search moving. There's always another location, another ghost of an industry, and another story waiting just around the bend.